Welcome to the 82nd video in our series about Unix tools. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Python's built-in virtual environment the modern way. Most tutorials online that I could find use the virtual env package, but that's the old way, and it's not the way you should be doing it. I'm assuming you're using Python 3 because Python 2 is dead and buried. The use case I'll use as a model is using pylint to analyze a simple hex dump program. Using a venv creates an isolated Python environment with its own private set of modules. This wastes a lot of disk space but avoids conflicts with module versions. This is the way most projects require you to use Python today. Whether you love it or hate it, like VI, you need to know how to do it. I'll cover 4 things: creating a new Python virtual environment, installing modules with pip, exiting a virtual environment. It's important to do that gracefully. And number 4, entering an existing virtual environment, because you only create it once, then you use it again and again for each project. Can we do all that in 10 minutes? Well, we'll see. You must have a working internet connection for this to work, because we're going to use pip, and pip fetches packages from the internet. Okay, let's get to it. The first thing you need to do is have some directory where you're going to work. For me, I've set one up to save a little time, and you can see the directory has nothing in it except the program that I want to analyze with pylint. So, great. What do I need to do to set up the virtual environment? It's pretty simple. Python 3 -m venv, and then we need to do a clear, which will wipe out any existing virtual environment. Be careful. And then we want to upgrade the depths in case something's out of date. We want to use copies, not symlinks, because we want this to work no matter what. And we need to give a name, which we'll call my venv, my virtual environment. And when you hit enter, if you wait a little while, it should be ready to go. At this point, you are not in the virtual environment. Take a look at that prompt. That's the same prompt you had before. We're not in yet. You have to source, and then you take the name you gave, which was my venv, and then you say bin activate. And you see the prompt has changed. The prompt now has the name of the virtual environment in parentheses, and then whatever your prompt that you had before. Okay, we're in there. If we do a pip list, you're going to see there's not much in there. We have pip and setup tools. So I said we wanted pylint. We need to do a pip install on pylint. You might wonder, what is pylint? Pylint is a static source code analyzer to find errors and bad programming idioms in your Python program so that you can fix them. And you can see it's pretty smart. It got pylint, but it also got all the complicated dependencies. You know, it has to have McCabe less than 8 but more than 6, and it has to have isort but not version 5.13. So you can see the rules are rather complex. Pip takes care of it, but each, this is what pylint needs. If you use some other package, you'd need to create a different virtual environment for that package, because the rules for it will probably be different. The dependencies in Python are ugly, but that's the way it is. What can we see in our directory? We're going to see there's a my venv. Don't delete that. You need that. Now, let's take a look and see if we have pylint available. We do. So we can do a pylint, if I spell it correctly, on the hexdump.py. and we'll get an analysis. And it tells you there's a problem on line 17, column 14, and they tell you what they don't like. They say you're formatting a regular string, which could be an F string. And that's sort of a hint that either the hex dump program code is old, or whoever wrote that program is using an old tutorial or an old Python book. So they aren't taking advantage of F strings, which are faster, safer, and easier to read. I wrote this program years ago, and I never updated it. So how do you tackle this problem? 10 is a perfect score. It tells you 8.78. We didn't have anything too bad, but we ought to fix these. And so the first one is on line 17. So we can do use whatever editor you want. I'm going to use VIM. And it shows that we're doing the format method. And this was the right way to do it in, say, Python 3.0, 3.1, 3.2. That was how you were supposed to do it. But now we're supposed to use F strings. And so how do you use an F string? You might wonder. Well, you have to put an F there in front for the F. And then you've got your format, right? But then maybe you don't exactly know, and you kind of worried. So what can we do? We could stop the video and go search online and go find out officially, but wow, wouldn't that be a lot of trouble? Instead, let's try I times 16, where we had 0, which meant the 0 element. And then let's go here and let's see, number 1, does it run? Number 2, does the output look okay? And number 3, does it work? Since we don't want to break the existing program, right, and that's called hex dump, we'll write this as hex dump ng, the new generation. Okay, now we're going to get out. We take a look at what we've got. Hex dump ng permissions are wrong because we wrote a new file. It doesn't have execute, so we need to give ourselves, everybody can execute it. I'm doing the cowboy way, you know, not too safe, but there it is. Now, let's run hex dump on some file, and then we'll run hex dump ng on another file, on the same file, and compare the output. So if we looked at this and we looked at etc. issue, oh no, I don't have etc. issue, etc. group. It's telling me I don't have hex dump. Oh, because I've spelled it wrong. Okay, so there's the original hex dump program before we made the change. Let's look at the next generation. After we made the change, the output is identical. And let's go back and run pylint on the hex dump ng and see if line 17 is still in the list of problems. So we're going to do pylint hex dump ng.py. And no, line 17 is gone. We fixed line 17. So the next one's on line 25. Okay, and again, where we had the 0, we put whatever we were printing in there instead. And then we save this and we say, wow, can that really work? Well, try it and see. Take a look at this. Here's what it should look like. Uh-oh. Does that look the same? No, it does not. That looks rather hideous. What's wrong? Well, I don't know. We go back in there and we take another look. And we say, man, I know I copied all that stuff. I didn't put the F. It can't be an F string unless you put the F. F is for format. So that looks a lot better. Let's get the original and compare. 55, 62, 75. Yes, it's exactly the same. So we're continuing to make progress. And if we ran pylint again, you'd see we're now down to 4 errors. We just work through them, start with the top one, and keep going. And notice our score has gone up. It says last time you were 8.98, now you're at 9.18. Our score is getting better. Sometimes it won't get better, but usually it'll get better for each thing you fix. So now you know what you should do to your homework programs before you send them to the teacher. Not only will pylint find these style errors, this is a style error using the old format method instead of an F string, it'll also find outright errors if you have some. Not every error, but it'll find many. So, we've run out of time on this video. The last thing I need to tell you is how to get out. Deactivate. And you see we're back to our regular prompt again. How do I get back in? If we go back far enough, that's how you get in. And deactivate is how you get out. And you'll only need to set up the environment one time. And you can do pip install, you can add more stuff as long as you're inside the virtual environment. And you set up one virtual environment for each project you work on. Okay, we're done with that. Thank you for listening.